Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Natural Aquarium with Ryan, right here on Father Fish. Today, we're diving into another invisible factor in your tank, something that you don't see but is incredibly important to your fish: dissolved oxygen. If you didn't know, your fish are actually taking the oxygen out of the water column, and if your levels get too low, well, things are not going to end well for you. For most of you, you probably haven't ever thought of this because you've got plenty of equipment that's keeping your dissolved oxygen up there in the safe levels for fish. Otherwise, if you don't have some of these devices, it might be something that you worry about, like if you've got a completely filterless bowl or something like that, that could be an issue that you don't know about yet, but could be something that you should. So, dissolved oxygen is simply the amount of oxygen gas that's dissolved inside of your water. Fish, plants, bacteria, and even snails, they all depend on it. Now, the problem is that the dissolved oxygen levels will actually change throughout the day. When it is sunny, or in our case, when we've got the lights on for our aquarium, the plants are busy making lots of this oxygen, which will then go and dissolve into the water column. Some of it will escape from the top of the tank, but it's a happy time. Now, the reverse of all of this photosynthesis is that when plants do not have light, they are doing respiration just like your fish are, just like your little scuttly friends, your snails, anything else that's alive in the tank. And when they are doing respiration, that means that they are taking the oxygen from the water, and they are going to then deplete it over time, and they will not produce it again until the lights come back on. There are, of course, other factors to watch out for when it comes to the depletion of dissolved oxygen in the water. For one, anything that's decomposing in your tank, whether that be leaves and mulm, or perhaps if you've overfed and there's now food sitting in the water column being munched by bacteria. Those will also deplete the dissolved oxygen. There's also the factor of high temperatures. The higher the temperature, the lower the amount of dissolved oxygen able to be in the water column. So as I tell my students, as the water gets hotter, the oxygen gets hotter. There, of course, is also the very present option of making sure that you do not have too many fish in there. The more organisms that are in there that are not plants, the more oxygen that is being pulled out of the water column. Also, if you don't have any surface agitation, like you don't have a bubbler or a wave maker or anything like that, well, congratulations, you are also going to have less oxygen in your water column because less is able to diffuse from the atmosphere above. So for most of us, the easiest solution is to just add some sort of aeration, whether it be a air stone, whether it be a filter with a bubbler, some kind of wave maker, some kind of hang on the back filter, whatever it may be, get that surface agitated. Another solution, of course, is to not add too many leaves, as per our experiment. The more leaves you add, the more decay there is, the more respiration is happening, therefore the less oxygen is in the water column. You should also, of course, avoid overfeeding for the same reason, because excess food means excess bacteria if it doesn't get eaten. Another thing you can do is also make sure that your aquarium does not get too hot. If you are in a place that is quite arid like myself and you had your fish in the garage or something like that, well, it might get a little too hot in there at times and you might need to cool your water down so that the oxygen does not deplete as quickly. You should also make sure that your hardscape or maybe large plants or something like that is not creating some kind of dead zone where there is no circulation and therefore not much oxygen. So you may be asking yourself, what level of dissolved oxygen or DO do I need in my aquarium? It depends on the fish, but for the most part, you can't go wrong keeping it above 5 parts per million. Fish will be healthy, reproducing, all that great stuff. If you start to have long periods of time where it drifts below 5, you'll notice that you can start to get into the stress zone and perhaps into a hypoxic or anoxic zone in which your fish will eventually die. So I have an experiment for you all today. What I did was I took each of my tanks and I stuck my dissolved oxygen probe in to monitor what the levels were during the middle of the day when the plants had done plenty of photosynthesis. And then we're also going to take a look at what they look like very early in the morning without the lights on, so we get the lowest of the lows because there is no photosynthesis putting oxygen into the water column. So this is my 20-gallon long. It is chock full of plants. There's not very many fish, and unfortunately, as you're going to see, the water flow is actually not so great. Despite not having a lot of flow, it does come in at a great 6.7, 6.8 in the middle of the day. Very healthy for fish. Next we go on to my 10-gallon, and my 10-gallon has lots of plants again, and this one has a great amount of flow. And hey, look at that! We get more flow, we get more oxygen, so we're at a nice 6.9, 7.0. Here's my 20-gallon tall Endler tank. Again, chock full of plants. I don't really trim as often as I probably should, and this one runs a little cooler than that 10-gallon. So let's see what our dissolved oxygen is here. Still good, but a little bit lower than the other ones, 5.8, and that's of course due to low flow again, and we'll see why soon. Here's my most recent aquarium, the Cave Aquarium. I run this a little bit warm because I'm trying to breed my Medaka and they respond better to summer temperatures here. So this one is powered by dual air stones, and the dual air stones are keeping our DO level topped up to a lovely 7.2/7.3. Pretty good. And now we move on to my fishbowl full of pearlweed. No tech in here whatsoever. No heater, no filter, no nothing. Just a bunch of pearlweed, some floaters, and some snails. And its DO comes out to a wonderful 7.5/7.6. So, let's take a look at these all again after the lights have been out all night, and here we are in the morning, and uh-oh, our DOs have dropped. The 20-gallon long has dropped to 4.6. Oh, we're starting to get close to the stress zone here. Let's check out the 10-gallon. What did this end up as? This one has probably the most aeration as opposed to the 20 gallons that are next to it. And let's take a look. Has it dropped as much? Oh, look at that. Still a nice healthy 6 milligrams per liter. Now let's take a look at the 20-gallon tall Endler tank. This one has the most stocking, and then also probably the least amount of surface area, just due to the fact that it is a tall as opposed to a long aquarium. And so, as you're going to see here, the dissolved oxygen is the lowest out of these, 4.1. Ooh, not so great. And let's check out the Cave Aquarium. Remember, this one has twin air stones, and this one managed to stay up right in the same range as that 10-gallon with tons of aeration as well. A nice healthy 6.2, 6.3. So let's take a look at our filterless, heaterless bowl here. This one, the light kicked on a little earlier than I thought it would, so it has had a little bit of light, but you're still going to see the difference here. The dissolved oxygen level has floated down to 5.5 approximately. So, why is it that the 20-gallon long and the 20-gallon tall are not so great? Well, it's because I was trying this different little aeration system, and unfortunately, the things don't have as much bubbles coming out, and the reason is because they keep getting clogged, and so there's not as much flow. And of course I did check everything at the pump itself, everything seems fine, and so hey, if we take off that little attachment, congratulations, we get more aeration. And so let's check out the change now. Here we are the next morning when the oxygen should be the lowest. Let's see what it comes out to in our lovely Endler tank. This was the lowest one, remember? And if we take a look at our dissolved oxygen, what do we have? About 6.0, hooray! Back up to levels that are nice and happy for the fish, not anywhere near the stress zone. And over to the 20-gallon long. What are these numbers now that we've changed up the filtration a little bit here? Oh, look, 6.2. Also a wonderful place to be for fish. I set up a further experiment where I wanted to see just how much oxygen was being pulled out of the water due to the decay of leaves, because of course we do need to use these in our aquariums if we want to keep them as natural as possible. And they're a great food source. So what I did first was I weighed out all the leaves, and then we went ahead and we put them all in their own containers, and I filled half of them up with distilled water that had been slightly remineralized with some Epsom salt. And the other half were just filled up with water that came out of the Endler 20-gallon tall tank. So we've got a good contrast between water that is pretty much sterile versus water that already has a whole bunch of microbes and stuff in them. And then we let it go. We let it go for several days. Came back in, monitored at about 10 o'clock every day because that's just when I happen to have a little bit of time. And what we saw is that initially the dissolved oxygen level decreased quite a bit. A lot of this was due to the mass, the surface area, and even just kind of the decay level of the leaves. So you can check all of that out on the data chart here that I put together with all of the raw data. And all of this, of course, mirrors exactly what I found in a bunch of research papers that I did while writing the book. And this also is why, when it comes to resurrection jars, you want to make sure that you are not overloading them with decaying matter, because this is the number one reason why your jars will fail. There will not be enough oxygen because there is too much decay. So when it comes to leaves or organic matter or something like that, it's about 1 leaf per liter, because anything more than that, and you're just going to be below that lovely safe threshold of about 4 to 5 milligrams per liter of dissolved oxygen in that water. So that's that. Keep your fish nice and healthy with lots of aeration. Make sure you're not throwing in too much food or too many leaves or anything all at once. And you should have a nice, happy, healthy aquarium. Thanks for joining me here on another episode of the Natural Aquarium. We'll see you next time right here on Father Fish. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like, maybe leave a comment about something oxygen related, and do subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks.